Okay, so this is my part 2 to funny things that have happened. Hold up. I probably could sound sick because I kind of am, but it's like not really. Because it's like I don't even catch stuff from other people. I just like get sick or get flare-ups due to issues that I just already have pretty much. And so my throat gets dry easily, and so does my nose. And really my whole body's dry, to be honest. But it got worse after my tonsil removal. Or maybe when I had got that tonsil infection for those couple years, really. But anyway, after that, pretty much I have to wear a mask like all the time, but whenever I'm staying indoors, it's like not a lot of airflow and the air's really dry, unlike outside. So wait a minute. So when I'm indoors, depending on the place, even wearing a mask inside doesn't always help if the place is too hot and like the air's too stuffy and dry, or there's no airflow at all because there's no HVAC. There's no working HVAC. And so anyway, yeah, my throat gets dry and then I start sneezing and stuff, but it's not even a cold or anything. It's really just I don't get sick other than the issues that I already have. It is kind of weird, to be honest, but that's why I sound kind of sick, or probably more than kind of. My nose wasn't even stuffy a few minutes ago, so I don't really know what happened, to be honest. Anywho, I'll talk more about that when I make my next how to know if you have mitochondrial dysfunction video. Or honestly, I may call it something else because I've been like thinking about this for like a few years. The whole situation of when I was staying with relatives and my health really started to go downhill, and how like me and other people thought that it was from like the spiritual side of the abuse and like the Jezebel Leviathan spirits and stuff. And I mean, sure, that's part of it, but honestly, even with all that, the more research I've done since no longer being gaslit about my health, the more I've realized all the physical sides to it. And of course, the number one thing is iatrogenics. And then one of the other things was how buildings are made in the U.S. And like we build out of wood, so that automatically means there's going to be mold. And then poor air quality or not working, no HVAC, stuff like that. Yeah, I think I mentioned that before. Well, actually, no, I have mentioned that before in a couple of the mitochondrial videos or whatever in the world. But anywho, I've been making this like, I don't know, diagnostic criteria about how, wait a minute. Oh yeah, wait. I was calling it Labelle syndrome. I can't even really remember. But pretty much a sickness that you develop from quote-unquote narcissistic or Jezebel and Leviathan abuse, which also includes cash for kid system abuse, human trafficking. Because of course a lot of people get like autoimmune type issues and stuff from that. Dang, now I'm scrolling the wrong way, but not scroll it. I don't know. I'm too stuffed up right now to even really think. And it's really, really funny because I wasn't like 2 seconds ago. Anyway, number 2, because I'm already 5 minutes in. Funny things that have happened while I was homeless. So, or really I should say since running away. I feel like that's probably a better title. To a certain extent. Because of course people just feel like, well, that means you're quote unquote grown. But I guess it doesn't matter much since nobody watches this stuff. I'm going to start off with something that I remembered earlier. And it's not just funny. Well, it's not even necessarily funny. It's just like interesting and true. So, back when I was still in GA, hold up, because I may have to put my mask on, but I just don't know if I'm hearable with the mask on. But I don't want my throat to like re-dry up. Back when I was in GA, I had this lady tell me that I'm really smart and that she bets my family would call me crazy. And that was interesting because it reminds me of something that was said to me way before I started going through the Cash for Kids system stuff. Honestly, way before I moved in with my mom and a lot of things happened. And this dude told me when I was like 9 that people are always going to call you crazy because you're really smart. And I remember his name was Mr. May. I don't remember the lady's name because, like, ever since 2020, I don't remember names or faces, and it takes me 6 months to remember a name. So, I don't know. But, still interesting. So, to start reading from the notes. Oh, yeah. This is the stuff that happened when I was in NC in December to, like, mid-January. So I think I was there for Christmas because I remember I had my sleeping bag, my mat, and my hand warmers for my feet and hands. And it was 15 degrees and snowing in North Carolina. So this was sometime before Christmas to mid-January, because before that I was in Manhattan, and then I went down to North Carolina. So this lady who people were talking junk about, because there was a lot of Jezebel people at the shelter, and there were 2 specifically. One stereotypical trailer park trash Jezebel, and another one who of course was in the military, and that worked out how it worked out for her. Well, actually I think her house burned down, but either way, the common situation ended up happening where her and her husband were staying at shelters. And she was just extremely Jezebelic. She loved to argue and talk junk. And I think eventually even her and her trailer park trash Jezebel friend had fell out with each other because they started talking junk about each other. They wanted to fight this 19-year-old girl because they said she was a quote-unquote hoe. And she was scared that first of all, they were in their 40s. Let me go ahead and say that. So you want to fight this kid because you're Jezebel, so really you're claiming it's because she's a quote-unquote hoe. Because really she was being taken advantage of, and they found out she was pregnant somehow. They wanted to fight her and this other girl. And I don't know how old the other girl was, but she was like a kid too. So anyway, they wanted to fight the other girl because she had a job in a car. I know, I could tell that made them feel some type of way. And so anyway, this was the most ghetto. This was very ghetto. This was probably the most ghetto shelter stay I ever had. And honestly, I never stay at shelters unless, like, I really, really need to. And it was snowing at this point in time, so that's why I went. And, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, so anyway, there was also what I like to call schizonarcs. And to get to the point, the schizonarcs were even talking junk about this one lady who would, like, go on these little tangents a lot where people wouldn't really know what she was talking about. But I'm just thinking, how are you guys talking about her when you split into different personalities and start talking to yourselves in corners? But I guess because you don't notice, you feel you have the right to talk junk about this lady because you don't know what you do when you start splitting off and all that stuff. So anywho, we were in the van being driven to the shelter because we would go there at 9, and I eventually found out that their usual was to kick you out, wait a minute, hold up. They wake you up at 4 a.m. and drop you off on the side of the road. I didn't know that till days later, because for the first couple of days we stayed there, but that was only because it was snowing, and it was snowing really bad. I eventually found out very abruptly that their usual was to just dump people out on the side of the road at 4 a.m. And mind you, I didn't even know where to go or what to do. And so most people, they go to the bus station once it opens, and then they stand there till 9, 10 p.m. when the shelter's open. Or they go to the library if it's open. And at the men's shelter, because that 19-year-old, when she was getting threats, she started going to the men's shelter, which honestly made a lot of things worse because she was getting taken advantage of more. But I had to stay there one night, 1 or 2 nights, I can't remember why. And so they don't have blankets, they didn't have mats, they didn't even really get food. They got like a can of soup, but the women's shelter was just way different. We had mats and everything. The men's shelter had absolutely nothing. And all the staff were volunteers, which is also interesting, because it's like, well, these are pagan Roman Catholic churches, but these places get funding money, but obviously the funding money is just going to the people at the top. If there's no food, no blankets, the staff are all volunteers. So who's really getting paid? Anyway, we were in the van and we were getting different to the shelter. And no, yeah, it was either that or this was a 4 a.m. drop off. But the lady I was mentioning, she was going on one of her rants where she starts talking and nobody really knows what she's talking about. And she was like, okay guys, hold on, we're going 100 miles per hour, hold on guys. And they were telling her to shut up. And honestly, none of that's really necessary. It's just people are really Jezebelic. And they wanted somebody to put down to keep theirself up, which is what goes on throughout the whole of society, and that's how the caste system works. And so the same way they're putting somebody down and being Jezebelic, people with houses are putting them down and being Jezebelic because, quote unquote, they're better than them because they're not homeless. Now here, well, they don't have like all the fentanyl drug stuff going on. So it's not like the West Coast scene where like the homeless people are like, well, a lot of them are like on drugs, or a lot of people in general, homeless or not, are like on all these different things. But there's still the whole homeless and mentally ill accusation and stereotype. So there's that. Oh yeah, I forgot all about this one. Still another thing from the NC shelter. Old lady went to jail for peeing herself. So I forgot all about this because things become repressed memories really quick for me. But pretty much whenever the staff got mad at somebody, or whenever somebody was doing anything, they would call the police on them. Now, I'm not saying all the staff are mean. Honestly, I've met actual nice people in the homeless industrial system or complex compared to the Cash for Kids system. Everybody in the Cash for Kids system is either straight up abusive or they're like really nonchalant and they're just in there for their paycheck and they don't really care whether whatever. I don't even know what to say. But there were some staff that were also Jezebelic. In fact, the Jezebelic staff were friends with the Jezebelic people in the shelter. Specifically the two ladies, because it was really two main people that were the issue. The military lady and the trailer park trash lady. So, anyway, this lady would get the police called on her whenever she would pee on herself, and they would say she needs to either wear the diapers or get up and go to the bathroom. And I mean, that makes sense, but I still feel like getting the police called on you and going to jail or having the police escort you and throw you out into the snow is kind of interesting. But I mean, it is really messed up to just sit there and pee on mats that other people have to sleep on too. And we wipe down our own mats with Clorox wipes, but I mean, other than that, they're not really getting cleaned, of course. So it still is really messed up because then somebody else has to sleep in your pee, which is one of the big issues with how shelters are unsanitary, but that's a whole nother video. So I already mentioned the whole getting dropped off on the side of the road thing. Oh no, I forgot that they also, well, the staff would call the lady, they would call the lady Miss P. And I'm just saying that because I don't curse, although some people say it's not a curse word. But to say it nicely, they would call the lady Miss P. It's not funny. It wasn't funny then, but looking back, it's very interesting. At least that's what I could say. But dropped off on the side of the road. So I mentioned that, and there was this one lady where she asked, "What do we do? And what's going on?" We were like doing the whole getting dropped off thing, and I was like, "Well, we're getting dropped off on the side of the road till at 4 a.m. and that's why we're in the van, and that's where they're taking us right now." Cause she was new and she didn't really know what was going on, and she was like, "It's good. I've been getting dropped off on the side of the road since I was a child." And I mean, it was, honestly, that was really sad, but it's like, she just said it with so much enthusiasm. So the next thing, I recently wrote this on the list because I recently remembered this. So there was this one lady in there. She was definitely the common traumatized, low-ranking Jezebel. She wasn't outright abusive, but due to her being arrested at a certain age and being soul fractured to a certain extent, it made her Jezebelic enough. Because, like, I noticed that she had sons, but she would talk to them and make jokes, talking junk about them, as if they were, like, her friends or something. And she wasn't doing it in a mean way. She just thought it was funny. And she was friends with this transgender boy at the shelter. And, it also kind of made me think back, not that she was like that mean with it, but it made me think back to some other concept that I had made some years ago, where I noticed that being stupid and being evil can be pretty much the same thing at times, because it's like somebody who's stupid can develop a high-ranking Jezebel spirit, and they'll like terrorize their kids and tell their kid that there's a monster in the closet because they think it's funny because they're stupid, but they don't know that that also actually opens the door for like demons to start tormenting the kid and actually be in the closet if they aren't already. That's just one example, but that's kind of irrelevant though. Anyway, she was in like her 20s or something, and I would say she was 25 at most, maybe 28. But sometimes when people are bigger, they look older. So, she was making a joke about the Jezebelic ladies at the shelter, and she was like, "These half-dead bees mad because they old and ain't done nothing. Well, ain't done shit. And we're still young, so they're mad at us and they're jealous of us because they're half-dead bees." And she was like, "How are you half-dead and mad at us, and how are you half-dead and ain't done shit?" Okay, so this was said to me by a human trafficking victim who believed that I was a gang stalker. That was the upsetting part, and there's also more to that story, but that could be for a whole other video because this is already 18 minutes in and I just started. But he asked me what type of music I like, and I said that I don't listen to music. And the reason I don't is because of like the spells and frequencies and stuff. Wait a minute, hold up. And so anyway, once I said I don't listen to music, he was like, "Yep, you're an alien. I knew it. You're an alien." So I don't even think this is really even that funny either. But as I said before, I had to lie about my age to go to shelters, and I don't tell anybody my real name or age or any of that, obviously, for many reasons. And so when I was at this one shelter in Cali, this dude was like, well, whenever he would see me, he would be like, "Are you 18 yet?" And I would just be thinking, if he doesn't shut up, because he's going to get me kicked out and locked up. And of course, it was because he was also a chomo, and they go by the legalities, even though really there's no difference between the 18-year-old and the 17-year-old. The age of consent is like 14 anyway, to be honest, and you're still going to be a chomo regardless. And regardless of how old I was, if he did do anything crazy, he's not going to get charged or go to jail anyway, because that's how the systems work. I forgot all about this, and this reminds me of something else. There's a lot of people out here, especially elderly people, that people would just say, oh, they're crazy and schizophrenic. But honestly, I would definitely say, and I'm pretty sure I said before, even on the evidence channels before I left, there's a lot of people out here who are definitely people with dementia. And I also believe a lot of the elderly people out here with dementia are probably lost and have people looking for them. Well, not a lot, some of them. But I do believe that some of these people are lost people that somebody's looking for. And not like they escaped some bad situation, like they actually really are just lost. But anyway, when I was sitting at this shelter in NC, this one elderly lady was like, do you guys want to see my panties? And then she had like pulled down her pants in the back, but she was wearing a diaper though. And then this one girl, one of the girls that the two Jezebel ladies wanted to fight, not the 19-year-old, but the other one, she was like, are you serious? Did you really just moon the whole congregation? Oh yeah, so one story I forgot about the old bitter 40-year-old. So the military one, somebody had gotten to this argument with her because they were saying this lady had COVID, and this other lady was like, she asked her when was COVID first discovered, and the lady got mad because she was a nurse and couldn't answer the question. And she was like, I'm an effing registered RN, and I'm a nurse, and I was in the military. And she went off on this crazy little Jezebelic, stupid little schizonarch rant. And then she started talking about shooting people because the lady asked her when did COVID first come out. And she was like, I'll put a gun to her head and blow, because I got guns, and we... It wasn't even that serious. That was so funny. And I forgot about that too, and that's something else I recently wrote on the list.